Maybe outside.
It's podcast time.
And today we're going to be talking about the in-between war period, the in-between period between World War I and World War II.
That's right. And if you don't remember, our speakers are, I'm Ezra.
I'm Emmett.
I'm Minnie.
And I'm Anna.
And we're the Ancient
Critics
Critics
Podcast.
So, what is the Treaty of Versailles?
The Treaty of Versailles was a treaty that was signed in June 1919. And it was the treaty that officially ended World War I.
But then, what was the armistice that was signed on November 11th? What was that? Was that just, it was less official ending of the war, or what?
The armistice? When was it?
In November 11th, 1918.
11/11.
It sounds like you might know, Emmett, so do you want to tell us?
Well, so I was asking the difference because the armistice, it was signed as something kind of ending it, but it wasn't a full end because I think only some countries signed it. So it was like more of a stop fighting between Germany and
The rest of Europe-ish.
on the Western Front.
Yeah. And the U.S. didn't sign it, right?
The U.S.
Can you Google?
If I remember correctly from...
The U.S. didn't sign the treaty, which caused more conflicts, which eventually would lead up to World War II, right?
Yeah. It weakened the what's the word I'm looking for? The effect of the treaty, because if America signed it, then people would be like, okay, it would be safe-ish or whatever, but they did not.
So you're saying it wasn't that efficient, or?
Yeah, it wasn't very
Okay,
effective.
so the armistice was just a ceasefire between the Allies and Germany in World War I, but it wasn't the full end of the war.
I see.
So the Treaty of Versailles was the end of the war.
Versailles. Yeah.
Versailles. And this treaty imposed heavy repressions on Germany, reducing its military and causing economic hardship on Germany.
I think it's
Reparation?
reparations. Yeah.
Reparation.
Yeah.
So it really took a toll on Germany, making them not as powerful.
So how did the political map change after World War I?
After World War I, the Axis powers lost a lot of land. And do you know who were the Axis power in World War?
The Axis powers, they were the Germany and Austria and mainly those two, but also Turkey was part of it, but mainly Austria and Germany. And then when the Russian Empire fell, the borders were drawn and many countries gained independence, like Armenia, Poland, Finland, Estonia, Georgia, Latvia, and Lithuania.
Yeah, there's a map on here that shows the difference.
They can insert
Yeah,
the
I
picture.
think the editors can insert the picture, but yeah, it's crazy how much how many borders for countries came out of that.
So the Ottoman Empire fell and Turkey appeared instead.
Yeah. And then and Austria-Hungary was divided into all those other smaller countries that you can see now in modern day Europe.
Yeah. They're their own countries now.
Yeah.
And that was all just after World War One.
So then, after World War One, it was the 1920s. So what was happening during then?
So a lot of people call it the Roaring Twenties, and it's also known as the Jazz Age. In the 1920s, music and fashion and Western culture had like a period of economic prosperity. And in France, they called it, I don't want to pronounce that because I'm going to butcher it.
Les années folles, the crazy years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were this trend of these women called flapper women, and they were women who wore bobs and listened to jazz and loved rebelling
Ooh.
against social codes, and it's a staple of the Roaring Twenties.
Women also gained voting rights in multiple countries, including the U.S., which was the U.S. It was 1920, and the U.K. was 1928.
So then, at the end of the 1920s, what was happening?
At the end of the 1920s, that's when the Great Depression started happening, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what was like the big big thing that happened to like really get into the Great Depression?
It was the Wall Street crash. I don't really understand what that is. Like, I feel like I've heard that, but I don't know.
It's like a big stock market. So like all these companies have stocks, and then the stocks fell because just because a lot of people lost jobs because of the war. After the war, there was because all these people were working in the army. They were like working in factories to create weapons for war. But then as soon as the war was done, they weren't needed anymore, and then they couldn't really get jobs. So a lot of people didn't have any jobs, and unemployment went like skyrocketed.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, I'd always heard about like the Great Depression, but I never really understood like what started it. So. That's
So what
interesting.
is the Great Depression?
Okay, so the definition of the word depression in this instance
In the context.
is a period of low economic activity and rising unemployment. And so that lasted for more than 10 years, from 1929 to 1941. It affected every country in the world's economics, and their instability led to political instability, which eventually caused World War II.
And 5 to 10 million people died from the Great Depression. One cause was downturns of economies around the world.
Yeah.
So yeah, when the Wall Street crash happened in 1929, the big decline in the prices of the New York Stock Exchange, which was like the biggest exchange in the world. So as soon as the stocks were falling down there, that caused people to not trust in the banking system, and they wanted all their money out of it, and so then withdrawing all that money from the banks created like a deficit of money, so like deficit, so then like there wasn't money going around through the government because all these people were taking away all this money. So then the prices of the stock market kept crashing, which meant everything was just going downhill. So and it just really just messed with the economy.
Yeah.
And by 1932, U.S. unemployment peaked at 25% of people.
Yeah. So yeah, that was when the most people were unemployed and homeless.
Yeah.
But the government's tried to fix it by like raising taxes on trades to other countries, but it only made things worse because also those other countries were also experiencing a depression.
So they would get even more losing.
And then it also
money.
caused trading to not happen as much because they didn't want to get taxed because they were also going through these hard times. So
Yeah.
it would just mess with all the economy and just everything.
Yeah. This is a very random fun fact that they put in here, but during the Depression, people often made clothes out of potato sacks. So then companies made them like more colorful and patterned so that they would have cool clothes.
How potato sacks.
Yeah.
But then in Germany, the extremist parties took advantage of the inflation and unemployment. So then they grew in power because of all this. Everyone was distracted by this economic decline that there was like a gap forming in the government. And then these extremist parties, like the Nazis, they took control of Germany and they started to rise to power.
So a lot of bread lines and soup kitchens became common because people couldn't really afford food, and so they opened a lot of just community things like that.
Yeah. So then, also in France, the French, they actually had a pretty stable economy, so it didn't hit them as hard in the beginning, but then later they felt the effects. So like in 1932, they had more, they felt the effects of it. Can you tell us about that a little more, Anna?
Yeah. So the Popular Front is one of the leftist parties. Hold on. I lost where I was at.
It's right here.
Yeah. So as you were saying, France was fine until like 1932, and they ended up with 6 different cabinets and an alliance of leftist parties called the Popular Front. So the Popular Front started the French New Deal, which gave collective bargaining, also known as the right of unions, to negotiate their wages and hours.
So yeah, they had like the government took the government did stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was happening in Britain?
So in Britain, the Labour Party fell in 1931, and there was a new government that was led by the Conservatives.
And the Labour Party was a political party in the United Kingdom that sits on the center left of the political spectrum. The party has been described as the Alliance and Social Democrats. So that fell in Britain.
So, yeah. So John Maynard Keynes was a British economist who tried, but also failed, to tell the Britain about that unemployment wasn't from overproduction, but from decrease in demand. So because people didn't have enough money, they couldn't really buy stuff. So then they tried to, produce more stuff, but no one really wanted it. So then they had too much and they spent too much. So then it was just, that's how all the things went away. And then that really caused Britain to go down and like feel the effects of the Great Depression.
Yeah.
And he proposed that the British should use a deficit spending where the government pays more than it takes for the people going into debt to try to create jobs for people. But I don't think they listened to him, and that caused the Depression to be worse.
Yeah.
So I think we have to wrap it up for now, but we'll have a part 2 going over more different things about the Depression and also the Russian Revolution and the rise of communism. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.